What's up, guys? It's your boy Perp, and I am finally here with an update. Just got back from California, Pasadena for the Core TCG Regional. I went out there with a pretty good, decent group of people representing New Mexico. I think about 6 people, 5 to 6, and it was dope. It was fun. Great events. The week leading up to the event, I actually felt sick at the very beginning of the week, the weekend. And I was a little worried whether or not I'd be able to go, but it just took a couple days, and I just some good rest, and I was able to pull it off and fully recover just in time before leaving to California. So I was very glad I was able to go, because I was a little worried, because I definitely wanted to come to this event, and it was going to be a big thing for me, because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it to LA in January or not, so I know for sure that this event I wanted to go, and I'm glad I did. And I did take the Crocodile Yellow Purple leader. It was an iffy idea, because I was a little worried because of all the yellow running around. 10-drop Big Mom makes it a little difficult to deal with, especially if they're coming down back to back against my deck, my build. But other than that, I know my deck is very good against pretty much all the other decks, especially if this little pocket meta with all the ban list and everything. I felt like it was just the perfect opportunity to just give it a go and see what I can make a pull off for the event with this deck. So other than that, I want to kind of go over my rounds real quick, and then we'll go through the deck profile of what I ended up putting in there and going X-3 with. Like I said, it was difficult. It was hard to pull that record off with the Yellow Purple Crocodile, but it was extremely fun. So first round, round 1 was Katakuri. Unfortunately, there's nothing that I could have done. The guy had like 3 10-drop Big Moms first turn. So in the long run, it wasn't gonna happen. But I did my best, but yeah, I couldn't pull it off. So I did lose round 1. I was kind of not wanting to lose the first round. It kind of just depends on, setting the mood for the day. But I shook it off and went to the round 2, which was against Law, which was like a Whitebeard build with film. It was a little different mix, and I was able to defeat the Law. I was able to pull off that win. So I felt good about that, handling Law. And then the third round, I believe, was the no-show, which I was very surprised for round 3, not having a no-show. Maybe the person just wasn't happy and dropped right away, and or didn't drop, because obviously he didn't show up. So he just didn't even drop. He probably just bounced. So I did get that. And then round 4 was the Blue Crocodile Mono Blue, and it depends with that deck against mine. Most cases I do win, unless they just see an insane amount of Red Rock action going on. That can get difficult, but luckily he was willing to pull it off like maybe a couple times at most, and I was able to actually pull off that win also. So that was really cool. And then round 5 was Katakuri. I can only dodge yellow so much, especially with this event, and I unfortunately was not able to pull off the win. It's weird, because I was doing really good against Katakuris with this deck, but all of my Katakuri matches, they had at least 2 to 3 10-drop Big Moms coming down back to back, and it's just too difficult. I mean, I know a lot of you guys that don't play yellow that are on the other, on the receiving end of getting 10-drop Big Mom on, and I know how it feels. It's hard to catch up. It's hard to keep up the momentum and everything. So, and then round 6 was another Katakuri. So unfortunately, I did lose round 6. So I got 2 losses in a row, which never does well when it comes to scores and points. So it was unfortunate to lose 2 in a row. But after that, there was no more yellow. I saw round 7 was Blue Croc again, and I was able to pull that off again at the win, which I was really happy about. And then the final one was round 8, which was Film Kid, and I was like, oh, here we go. I don't know how this is gonna go. I've been waiting for a Film Kid to pop up all day. So the last round, round 8, and even though I did mess up at the very end, I probably could have got the win a turn early. I still was able to pull it off, luckily. I just really starved my opponent of resources, like really hardcore, and I just really didn't have any much left to play with at that point, where I just kept re-healing myself and had too many big bodies on the board at that point. So I was able to pull off that win, and you know, that's pretty much, you know, how my deck works, is basically just getting to the point of really trying to starve my opponent of resources, of continuously swinging at their board and then saving their life pretty much towards the end, while I have just a full board almost of just really big characters, as long as I can keep them on the board. So it was real good. I was pretty happy by the results. I was really hoping to go X2 so that I may make round day 2. I'm sure everyone else wanted to also, you know. But I just really wanted to prove something with Crocodile, that the deck is good, good enough to at least hold its own in a decent amount of decks. And I'm just happy that I did choose to stick with it. Now, I was originally wanted to take Whitebeard, but of course then the ban list came out, so I just kind of was like, you know, screw it, I'm just gonna go full send it with the Croc. And like I said, I'm happy I did. Had a lot of people come up and wanted to know what I was running or how I was running the deck, because you know, a lot of people want to figure out how to make that deck work. There's tons of different builds for it. People just experimenting like crazy. But then also all the people that I did meet out there, again, got to see Kick-Filet again, and the Strongest Wizard, you know, caught up with all them and said what's up, and had some new people show some new faces and new channels, and all that. So it was really cool. It was a great event. I was handing out playmats for my channel for any of them, or any of those subscribers that I currently had, that saw my post, to come up to me and say what's up, and I'll give them a mat. Unfortunately though, I didn't have actually anyone that came up and to say what's up, but you know, hey, it's okay. You know, I just keep coming to these events. I'm still doing what I'm doing, and I just love being part of these big events for One Piece card game. They're super fun, and especially this one was actually the biggest One Piece tournament for record. For sure, it was the biggest one. It was huge, 1,300 people, and it was a madhouse. Of course, it was crazy, but I really enjoyed it. And this trip, you know, going out with a group of people at that size, from New Mexico alone, I mean, there's not a lot of One Piece players in New Mexico, so you know, 5 to 6 players coming from New Mexico just to show out and play, and all of us pretty much went X3. So it was pretty good, you know, definitely I felt like we really represented New Mexico best that we could. And we were able to secure an Airbnb. It was probably, you know, one of those real expensive homes, like probably like 1.2 mil, I don't know. The market, you know how Cali market is. The house, you wouldn't be able to tell from the outside, but the inside, it was super nice, like really nice. Tons of room, a lot of area to test play. So that was really cool for this experience. It was my first experience, you know, being able to do an Airbnb instead of, you know, a little hotel room in the previous events. So it was really neat, and I had a really great time. Let's go ahead and just get right into the deck profile. You can see what the spice is, right? Okay, so let's just get right into it here. We got the Crocodile leader, Yellow Purple. During your opponent's turn, once per turn, when a Dawn card is returned from your field to the Dawn deck, you can set a Dawn from your Dawn deck to active. So basically anything that's Dawn -1 during your opponent's turn is basically free. So it's just a good Dawn ramp and keeps momentum with the 1 costs. It's really great. I love this. I love the effect. It's fun. So that's the leader. So here we're gonna get right into the characters here. I wanted to start with the big dogs. This is gonna be 3 Katakuri 8-drop. The card is great. It's, you know, it's $50 for a reason. It's amazing where you can, you know, put to bottom or top your opponent's 8 cost or lower characters to their life. But majority of the use for this card in this deck for me is basically putting the trigger cards that are on, the smaller trigger cards that are on my field back to the top of my life. Kind of like mostly Robin, the Robin combo. Or the Miss All Sunday combo, I mean. Just putting her back on top of my life. So when my opponent swings, she comes back out again. I get to reuse her, you know, draw power and Dawn Ramp. So she's really, really good with Katakuri. You know, there's a lot of other targets that you can use with the Katakuri effect in this deck. So he's really great. But I just run 3, and I probably do run 4. At the time I didn't have 4, and I do have 4 now. So I probably would end up running 4 if I kept playing with this deck. So that's Katakuri there. Then we got the 4 Crocodile. This is the 8-drop 9 attack. He's just awesome in this deck. He's amazing. He lets me just kind of, well, what I do is on play, down -2, I can add a card from the top of my deck to my life. So he just kind of regains life, keeps my life up and going, about 1 to, keeps it at 2 if I can, up to 3. And then when my opponent is attacking me during my opponent's turn, I could Dawn -1 to draw and then trash a dead card in hand, look for something else a little bit more better. So it really helps. Because also the Dawn minus effect, I can restand a Dawn if I do not have one active because of my leader. So he just really helps getting Dawn set up, helps me kind of go through dead cards and regaining life. So I gotta have 4 for sure. He's really, really good in this deck. And then another MVP of this deck here for sure is the Yamato. Absolutely 4 of. The way I play this deck is I'm always going down to one life, so that I can follow the following turn, keep dropping Yamato, because I do have a ton of counter in hand usually, and I do have a lot of draw power in this deck, so I have a pretty decent hand. So going down to 1 is no problem for me, especially if I'm just going to gain the life again and have all the counter in the world to deal with the following turn. So Yamato's great, you know, and of course it KOs. Combination of both my life and opponents, so it's great field removal also. So great card. And then I do run 2 Shiroshi. She's awesome in this deck too. Like I said, this deck likes to draw a lot, looking for cards that I need constantly. So Shiroshi is a great card in here because I'm always putting cards from the top of my deck to my life, so I never know what it's gonna be. But in most cases, it's cards like these, you know, with really great triggers. She's also a great target for Katakuri, to put her back on top of your life, to use her again. So you can't go wrong with her. I was running 3 at one point, but I think 2 is decent. So, and then I do run 4 Miss All Sunday. She's extremely important in this deck. Absolutely keep her at 4 at all times. She, like I said, the Katakuri combo with Miss All Sunday is just feels broken. It's super really fun and really cool to do over and over again. Always protecting your Miss All Sunday. Of course, you know, putting cards on the top of your to the top of your life, going against yellow. The majority yellow players right now are Katakuri, so they can really change your order and mess that combo up or burn it with a 10 drop. So you got to really know when to place her, if you need to put her on the bottom or not at some points, but usually just put her right back on top. That way you can just get her effect again. So really good card, absolutely. And then I do run, now let's go into the blockers. Blockers here, I do run 3 of the Miss Merry Christmas. She does not have a counter, so I'm only running her at 3. But the Dawn minus trigger also is a great way to trigger your leader's effect to gain a Dawn to active. And also she's a blocker, so she comes out of your life, your opponent has to deal with the blocker now. So that's pretty much what this deck, like I said, just tons of triggers. Really hard to get through for your opponent, all the triggers that come popping off. Really good. And then we run 4 Brulee. Just absolutely run her just for the trigger effect. I do play her from hand a lot also if I have the extra Dawn just to use. I always try to put a lot of blockers on the field. It just helps deal with a lot of swings if my opponent's running rush or whatever, you know, so it just helps minimize the damage. And don't have to use as many cards in hand, so that my hand size stays in a decent amount. So 4 Charlotte Brulees, absolutely. And then for Sanjis, I run 4 the blocker Sanjis. This is the last of the blockers I run in this deck. You know, cards are self-explanatory. You know, everyone loves this card. It comes out on trigger, you just discard a card to play. And he's a 4/5 blocker, so he actually can swing a lot. I swing with him all the time because they're still gonna target him anyways for an attack. So he's still a blocker and swings basically at the same time. So really good card. Run 4 of them. And then I'm gonna get into the 2Ks here. I do not run a lot of 2Ks. I think I only run 7. So I run 4 of the Capone beiges. Absolutely the best 2K in like counter in the game. He's ridiculous. You know, comes out on trigger and you can choose up to any opponent's characters to not attack that turn, even a leader. So like you can even use his effect on the kid leader, where now that leader can't even attack once, let alone it twice, because of the double swing or restand effect. So really good card. I love Capone. Capone can really save the game for you. Everyone knows. I know I can feel the same feeling. So and then I only run 3 Armande. This is the other 2K counter I chose to go with because of her effect alone. If I was gonna deal with a lot of law players at all, because I know the list got hit, but you know, people are still trying to make law work, so I kept her in because I can just trash a trigger card from my hand and rest a 2 cost or less of my opponent's character. So most, you know, it's for the blockers. Just rest the blockers, the small ones. That way I can get through and try to finish the game. So I have her. I don't really use her effect though. I never really did. I never really needed to. So, and then this right here, we're gonna go into the events. Soul Pocus. It was something I went back and forth on like a lot. Like I really did. I wasn't sure how it was gonna go, because I always wanted to play this card in this deck and always felt like it'd be cool. It's fun. But I also ended up sticking with it because I felt like I needed to apply pressure on my opponent consistently, a little bit more than what my deck was able to do. So with Soul Pocus, if it did come out, you know, most cases I can get rid of one of my opponent's life. They didn't really give me one, but that's not what it was for. It's really for just to burn an extra life of one of my opponents. Just apply that pressure and able to quickly get to the end game a little bit more faster. Or if I do have her in hand, the Soul Pocus, and I do not have any big characters to drop, then I can just play the 5, you know, and just like, all right, I might gain a life off it anyways. So it wasn't bad at all. Actually, it came up a lot more than I thought it was going to be. So I'm surprised how well this card actually did do in the tournament. I was pretty happy with sticking with it because oh man, I came so close to changing it to a searcher or something, but I'm glad I stuck with it because it actually did put in some work. So just 2 of those. And then I do run 2 of the lead performer disasters. With this deck, I want to go first all the time because I want to get to my 8 Dawn as quick as possible, because I'd go turn 1 is I play nothing, turn 2 most cases I swing for 8 or drop a Brulee, and then turn 3 when I have 5 Dawn, I usually would play a Missile Sunday, so that way I can get Dawn ramp to 6 and then following turn go to 8 Dawn. If I don't have a Missile Sunday, I'm hoping I have at least a lead performer to Dawn ramp. I get to draw 1 card also and get an active Dawn. So, and he has a great trigger, just play this card. So just get more Dawn ramp in this deck because it is important to try to Dawn ramp as early in the game as possible to start dropping the big characters and getting your momentum going. So it's a really good little tech card for sure. And then this is the counters. I run 3 Gummyjitgatlings. Really good card in this deck, absolutely, because of the trigger. I can add 1 Dawn card and set it as active, so it's more Dawn ramp, of course. And then, you know, you trash 1 card and you gain 3,000. So it's a 3,000 counter, but it's a 0 cost, so you gotta trash a card, which in this deck, there's a lot of dead cards in here sometimes in your hand that it fills up your hand, like maybe a Soul Pocus. Any blockers like these with no counter, If you have too many Missile Sundays in your hand, you got an extra Shiroshi. You have this card here you can just throw with it, and you don't have to have any Dawn up, so it's really, really good. It helps a lot. You got this card, it will save you for sure. So and then I do run 4 of the Nakara Burra arrow. Sorry, I butcher that name all the time. I just usually just call it arrow. But it's a 1 cost, minus 3k. Of course, the effect only pulls off if you have 2 or less life. Fortunately, with this deck, I always am at 2 life, if not 1. So this card is always accessible. I'm not able to pull this card off, and the trigger is really good. It'll save you. You can gain another life just by trashing 2 cards, and add a life from the top. Add a card from the top of your deck to your life. So it's more life gain. An extremely great counter for this deck. You cannot go wrong with this card. So I absolutely do run 4 of for sure. And the 1-ofs are important because you're always, dropping the Yamato at 9. You're always dropping your big characters for 8 cost. So you gotta have at least the one cost events are just so much easier to play in this deck. And this also is another reason for that, is because of Blast Breath. This is a 1 cost counter, Dawn -1 plus 4k. Extremely good card in this deck. The best event counter in this deck that you can play, because it's basically pretty much free. Because you pay 1, right? Of course, and then you Dawn -1, which was the 1 you paid for, right? And you send it back to your Dawn deck. Since it's during your opponent's turn you're using this card, your leader will come into play where you can gain that Dawn back, and it goes right back to active. So if you had 1 Dawn up, you have 2 1-cost blast breaths in your hand, you can actually play both of them, even if you just have 1 Dawn. Same with, you play, if you have these 2 in hand, you gotta play this one first. That way you get that Dawn back, then you can play this one again. That's why these 1 costs are so important. The 2s don't really work too well, so that's why I just run the 1 cost events. And that's basically the deck. That is it. And like I said, it did really good in the tournament. I wish it did better. It's really, really tough to play against a yellow deck that does back-to-back 10-drop big moms, or plays like way too many 7-drop back-to-back Linlins. So other than that though, against all the other decks, it does really well. It really does. And it really catches your opponent off guard, because no one is familiar with this build at all, and don't really know how it's played, and doesn't expect all the counter in hand that it does. So they're kind of like, they get me down to 1 life, and they're like, oh, this is it. No, for me, like 1 life is almost 2 to 3. So it's really cool. It's a really fun deck. Catch your opponents off guard, and I'm glad I was able to represent this leader out there. I was one of the very few that did, and I believe I may have only been the only one in the regional that went X3 with this leader. I could be wrong, but from one of my understandings is that I was the only one. So it's a lot of people were asking me what I was doing. So I'm glad I was able to get this video up. And then that's about it, guys. Look forward to getting the vlog up too. It'll be a short vlog, but keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming out either today at the same time, right after this video, or the following day. So I appreciate everyone, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for the support.